Should be on air right now. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode, what are we on? 113 of Mirrorless Minutes. I'm your congested host, Jamie McDonald. Mike Baining is out of the country. He's in Jamaica, man. He's away from this crappy weather that we're all experiencing. So I figured I'd take advantage of the fact that Mike was out enjoying some much-deserved downtime and have on a special guest. Last week we had on Jerry James. Jerry James is a local photographer that I shoot with all the time. Really avid Olympus user. And I thought I would just stick with that theme that I had going on there and bring on somebody I've been wanting to bring on for quite a while now. And I just want to say welcome to Jeffery McFeeters. Jeffery is based out of Kansas. I think that they've got interesting weather going on lately, like we have, sort of, maybe a little worse than us, but I'll stop talking for a minute. I'll let Jeffery introduce himself and let us know a little bit about him. So, hey, welcome aboard, Jeffery.
Hi, and it's great to be here. I have been following you guys for some time, as you know, and it's just, yeah, we're having good weather. It's finally a winter. I don't know if it's a winter by, Michigan standards, of course, but we used to have winters here when I was a kid.
I remember those. my kids have no idea what that means, but I remember them.
So
let's start off with a little bit of background. You're obviously, I think I led into it with the fact that you're an Olympus user, and if I didn't, I should have mentioned that, because it is because of that I think that we've kind of gotten to know each other online a bit here and actually had the opportunity to meet on the West Coast about a year ago, right around this time. And so just give everybody a little bit of background on your photographic history, how long you've been shooting, your progression to where you're at now with photography.
Okay. Well, I've grown up most of my life in Kansas and in this area. And my parents gave me a camera when I was 5 or 6, it's a little brownie. And it seemed like I always had a camera after that. There were people in our family that had cameras and were in the newspaper business and things like that. And I had this little camera here when I was in college and shot the Olympus 35 millimeter system for a number of years. Around 2000, we were going to Alaska, and I got this little gem. Still works, and it's kind of a 3 megapixel. Takes about 4 seconds.
Which one is that? Is that the Cam Media?
Yeah, Cam Media C3000. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
I got it on sale for like $700.
Nice. Hey, look who just dropped in from the tropics.
Oh my goodness.
I'm in, but apparently it's not showing my video.
Oh, I can see your video. We can see you.
Okay, here, Denise, come here. All right. Hey,
hi, Mike.
Jeff, how you doing?
Oh, it's.
I'm gonna throw Denise in here too. See if you see her.
How you doing?
Hey guys, it's going good. Hey, probably not as good as it is there.
I think you're probably where we wish we were.
Pretty dang nice. Yeah, I can't enough. Yeah, you can see one of the pools there, blue. But all right, man. Well, hey, I don't let you go. I just wanted to say that I got on the show.
Enjoy the vacation, you guys.
I know I'll be back in 2 weeks, man. Have a great show, Jeff. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Mike.
You guys.
Right, Jamie,
take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Yeah, I definitely wish I was down there for that. That's for sure. Holy smokes.
Oh my. Yeah. I was looking at pictures of Arizona today.
Yeah. That'd be a good place to be as well.
We got 4 or 5 inches last night and we're expecting more. So,
that's crazy.
It had this great little nifty, a little bigger than a postage stamp screen that you could see the picture right away, which was better than what was on the back of my Olympus. Which
right.
Basically, I did have a back that had where you could put the film that you were using, so you could remember what film you were shooting. So that was my first digital camera was an Olympus, and then around 2004 I started shooting some events where I needed I wanted the digital experience, and Canon had their DSLRs, and I started shooting those for a few years. And in 2012, I had been thinking about, I tried mirrorless. I had a GH1 that I used for video from Panasonic, and you know, I looked at the GH2, and I called a good friend of mine in Kansas City that shoots a lot of stuff, and he was in St. Louis at Creve Coeur, which I think just did a big deal on the EM1X. But I said, look at this OMD system that Olympus has, and tell me what you think, because I need something that, I was using the 1D bodies, and there's they're rugged, but they can handle moisture, and if it's raining a little bit, you don't have to worry about totally covering them up. And I needed that kind of thing. And he said, oh man, he'd stopped in. He said, Jeff, you need to get one and order two, because I want one. So we did. We each ordered one. That got me into, really, I sold the Canon stuff within a few months, and it was real obvious right away that this was going to be, well, for one thing, I just thought mirrorless is the future. There's just no doubt about it. And
yep.
And the mirrored thing was solving a problem no longer needed to be solved. So those are gradually going to fade away. But I've just been so excited to have this. I've got a picture of the old camera with the 1D, with the 1D Mark III with the 24-70, and the EM5 with 12-50 looks just so small. And yet, I tell you, the shots I got out of that camera just blow me away still today. So
I personally know what you shoot. I see a lot of what you shoot online, and we'll get to that here shortly when we do an image share, if we can get that working for us tonight. So have you always shot these subjects? And I'm not going to give away what you shoot, just because I want people to see your work, and I really want to talk about some of the things that you do that really just stand out. But I'm just curious, have you always shot the genres that I see you share now online, or did you start off shooting any kind of photojournalistic type of things, or is it always just been what you're doing now?
It's always been kind of across the board. I don't really have a right brain, left brain thing. I just kind of go back and forth. And so some stuff, when I go back and look at the photos I did as a kid, they were everything from travel. We traveled. I've got all these photos from places up, in Quebec, and at the top of, Washington Monument and things. And I'll look at those and I'll say, gosh, I was using leading lines and rule of thirds and stuff back then. I didn't even know what I was doing. So maybe because I was around, people that did photojournalism and had to shoot every kind of thing, I kind of didn't really have just one thing I liked. I did, when I wanted the Olympus, the OM1, primarily when I got it, to do macro work with, because I was in biology and chemistry, and so as kind of a scientist, geeky kind of kid, I thought this would be a great camera for that. But it was also good for events, because they were, I don't know, people remember this, but when this came out, it was the quietest 35mm camera anybody had ever seen, and it was small. So you could go into theaters, and you could take that was like super quiet. I was like, nobody, because a Nikon, you could hear it, you sound like today, it would, if somebody fired off one of those Nikons in school, it would start a panic, there's a shooter,
right,
because they were really click, they sounded like a AK-47 or something. But these were just really great for so many things. Plus, they were really sturdy in cold weather. And I did a lot of hiking in the mountains and stuff. So, so that was our original thing, and I was interested in that outdoorsy kind of stuff. So,
very cool. So, I think we should try and get the image share going now. It might take us a minute to get it all figured out. We had a little trouble getting the show going up tonight, and So I figure while you're trying to get the image share set up, I'll just kind of
we
talk
have
a little
to
bit
tell
about.
all our, I'm a Mac geek, and we couldn't get the Mac to work, so I'm on a PC. So you PC guys out there say, yeah, I knew that. Except that now we need to know how to make the PC image share. So
Right. Yeah, it's funny. Jeffrey's like, I'm going to bust out the PC. And I'm like, you're on your own. It's been a while since I've worked on one of those.
No, I used to be okay
I used to build
with
them all
of
the time.
Now I'm getting old, and I'm going to have to ask my grandkids when they get old enough how to do stuff. So I've got these in so if I go here and I hit screen share.
It's the beauty of live, everybody.
I just want the application window, don't I?
Yeah, ideally, that's generally what we do. We share the application that you're using to view the images on.
Which it'll be in the Google, it'll be in Chrome. So I click that, and now
then you just pull up the tab that you want, I think, right? There we go. Now we're cooking.
Now, I don't know how to make this, a fuller screen or anything.
Well, we are doing this like an image share over the internet based on people's bandwidth. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. We will definitely link to your website in the show notes so people can kind of get a better look at what your work is at a better resolution than this. But this is what I wanted to talk about. Is your style of work is obviously you do a lot of outdoor landscape and wildlife work. And go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, that's what I'm probably known for.
Mm-hmm.
Of the few people that know me, that's probably what I'm known for in the internet, because that's pretty much what I share. Most of my work is going to be events, and a lot of those it's not even practical to share them, or I might share an image from it, a dance shot or something, and I'll show some of those here. But a lot of those, from events don't get shown. And I love to do events. I love event photography and the candid work.
Sure.
I do portraits. Whoops, now what happened? Oh, okay, there we go. So this first image I'm sharing is shortly after I got the EM5 in 2012. This is early 2013. So I got started with it in the fall of 2012. In 2013, I drive down to Tucson. And on the way, I stop to see the mittens.
Mm-hmm.
And I take this shot early in the morning at sunrise. And I believe it or not, this is F22 with an EM5, the very first one. People now think, oh, I can't use an old camera. I'm at F22 on the 12 to 50 kit lens. I don't know why I was at F22. I know I wanted probably everything. I didn't know enough about the camera yet. I was still figuring things out. Yep. And so it just kind of sat there for a year or so while I figured out how to edit a shot like this. I think I probably bracketed it, but I just share it because Olympus just does not know how to make an unsharp lens.
I agreed. Even
they're a company that makes microscopes for hospitals and labs that people's lives depend on. So they know how to make a piece of glass that can transfer tremendous amount of information. So I've never had an issue with a 16 megapixel camera and their lenses being able to get an image that I can blow up as big as you would ever want to make it. So, and be clear and crisp. So I'm just showing this it's like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I still got a shot that I'm very happy with. I could probably do a better job with the color and stuff today, but just sharing that.
I think it's a good example of showing that you don't always have to have the latest in everything to still get great work. You know what I mean? I mean, that camera's, or when was that? 2012?
Yeah, yeah.
7 years ago. I mean, that was the first
Yeah.
mirrorless camera from Olympus. Really,
Oh,
I mean,
I would be happy to use that today. I'll tell you, I just sold one of my EM1s to a guy here in Kansas, Jonathan Adams, and he goes out and takes this EM1 that I've had for now a few years, and he's taking pictures I wish I had taken. So just, you know, they're way beyond what we can do. The second image, this is a little bit of what I'm sharing is kind of the mainly so that I guess people that don't know me well or haven't, this is a little bit of my history with Olympus and with the mirrorless community. So this is the first image that I shared where I was introduced to you. I shared this on a thing where a visionary would critique images. Oh, I'll get an image critique. I just took this, you know, this was probably 2013 or 14. And it was, I'd taken it here at the lake and it was 12 degrees. And I remember how cold I was. But, you know, I think I used a little Rokinon fisheye lens I had at the time because this is before the 8mm came out.
Sure.
And which I have now. But I used that little, you know, Rokinon 3.5mm to make some great images with. And this is cropped 3:2 because I just shot it with the horizon right in the middle.
Yep.
And it was probably a foot off the ground, and I used these logs frozen in the ice. This is actually water under here, but it's just solid ice across there. You can walk across the lake.
Can I stop you for 1 second real quick?
Yeah.
I just want to tell people, did you pick up on the tip he just gave you? So with a fisheye, the horizon in the center really helps to negate a lot of the distortion, but something that I've been doing too for a long time, just not at that aspect ratio, is cropping in. Like I usually use 16:9 if I throw the 1.8 on. Lots of times I'll shoot at 16:9, and you mitigate a lot of the distortion. It just kind of it actually makes it look like a panorama almost when you shoot that way. It's cool to see somebody else shooting in a different aspect ratio with a fisheye on. So I just thought that was kind of a cool thing to notice.
Well, and they do add quite a bit of drama to the curvature of the land works to its advantage with skies, and even on the ground here, I didn't do probably did not do any defishing or any kind of thing with this. I just, you know, the snow and the little lines, they all kind of curve around, so it tends to pull the eye back in towards the middle anyway.
Yep.
Anyway, you liked that, and we had a great time. And this is the image that kind of introduced me to Mirrorless Minutes and you. And I found out a little bit about you, and I started following what you were doing, and got, you know, and Mike, and we started, you know, sometimes we chat back and forth, and so this was, I didn't really know who you were until I shared this image, and you picked up on, I mean, you picked up the image and said, I want to talk about it. You picked so many images. I think there were thousands, you know, images.
Yeah,
there, and you like critiqued 8 or 10, and mine was one of them. So I was like, wow.
Yep.
So that was cool. Okay, you'll recognize this one.
Yeah, I sure will.
So this was kind of the image that then I got noticed a little bit by Olympus. It wasn't this particular edit of the image, but Olympus started the gallery thing about this. I don't remember exactly when, but I got onto the Olympus gallery and put, you know, like a dozen photos in there over a few days. This was one of them, and the next thing I know is that image is the cover for the Olympus gallery for like 2 years. I got embarrassed seeing it every time I turned on. I thought, surely there's zillions of great images, and I've since figured out they just don't change that very often. They'll put one on there and leave it on there for a year or two. That's fine. It wasn't like they were so proud of it. It looked like a good image to put on there. But
the way you made this shot, I want you to tell people what this is comprised of, because that's like the mind-blowing part to me.
Yeah, so this is not too far from my home, and but the cool thing about it is that 2 other friends of mine that I did not know were out that day were taking pictures of this storm from different parts of the county. And we all got great shots. In fact, I would say one of my friends, Patrick, got probably the best shot of this cloud over the lake. But anyway, this is 18 frames in portrait mode, bracketed and stitched together. And it worked out well. I shot it with EM1 and a 12-40 at 40 millimeters. And I do that a lot. I'll shoot with a 12-40, or now I use the 12-100 mostly, but I like to shoot big landscapes rather than with a really wide lens. I prefer to shoot them, especially out here in the high plains. If you're in the Dakotas and places like this, you can see a long ways, but
yeah,
you put a wide lens on there, unless you're just on a huge hilltop, which we don't have a lot of hilltops out here in case you haven't noticed. I mean, you send a drone up 100 feet and it's like, I got another 100 miles I can see. But yeah, I like to compress that distance a little bit and pull it in with the telephoto. So I like to be at, 70, 80 millimeter equivalent, a lot of times 100 millimeter equivalent. So, somewhere in that 40 to 50 millimeter range on our 2X crop sensors works really well. And then there's very little distortion when you're at that point. So stitching the images works really well too, even with clouds and things happening as you're panning. And so I took this shot, and I actually got to, I think I took 800 photos of this storm because it had moved and it developed. I got to see the whole thing. So I have some shots that don't even look like they're this storm because it changed and morphed so dramatically. It was just crazy. And then afterwards, the sunset was phenomenal over here to the, on back. So then I did a big panorama, the field over to the right there with the sunset that was, pretty phenomenal. But when you do a big one like this, then you can zoom in and there's like eagles flying in there that you can make out. And there's things that you don't see perhaps in just a single, like 20 megapixels or 16 megapixels on just one frame. So this ends up being, this would be like today's high res. This would be our high res today. So
do you remember off the top of your head how many shots were in those brackets? If it was like 3 at 2 or
I just did this one. I do. I just did 3 on this. I am in manual mode. I was at f4 and ISO 200, 1/1000th of a second. What I did is I took my measurement based on what was going to be the brightest part of the sky of that scene, and then I tend to bracket left to right. I guess that's kind of how a lot of us do. So I had to go over and get my readings based on where it was going to end up. If I were doing this again, I would have gone one more, but that's just looking back. I shoot all my panoramas in manual so that nothing changes. Everything, aperture, shutter speed, everything stays exactly the same, and there's quite a bit of overlap. So
cool. Very cool.
That's how I did that.
It's such a huge image. Is that on your website, by the way?
It is on my website. Yeah, it's probably one of the first ones.
All right, cool. So people are going to have to get over there and check that out.
They'll see some good storm shots in there, probably some other ones. Some from this last year are pretty cool. Okay. Now this is an image of an image. The reason I did this is because this tells the story of kind of how I kind of got into the world of Olympus and Mirrorless a little deeper. The other was just, it was a nice image on the gallery, but this was back in 2016 in August, and I was out taking pictures actually in about the same area as that last storm. Just it's a good spot. This is actually I'm on a hill.
On a hill in a lightning storm.
I'm on a hill, believe it or not, folks.
That's
I'm
right.
on a hill. So it's not a very big hill, but this is Kansas. Illinois has its flat places, but this lightning storm was incredible. And so I was, okay, by now, late 2015, I don't know if you remember, but Live Composite came out on the EM1 and Mark II, but on the EM1 through a firmware update. Yeah, that was it. So the first time we got Live Composite was on a firmware update. And maybe, I can't remember if this was along with the EM5 Mark II having it. It could have been. The EM5 Mark II may have come out in that time. I don't really remember. But I took this shot. I had two cameras by then. I liked the EM5 so well. I ended up with two EM5s, and then I got two EM1s. So I have two EM1s sitting here. They're both doing live composites. And so what I do on these storm things like this, so I don't miss anything, because I don't know if you've done this, but with live composite, it's kind of an interesting thing. You set your settings on what will be a good exposure for just a shot, and then you press the shutter, and so if it's a 2-second shot, if you're going to do 2-second exposures, which is what I was doing here, I was doing 2 seconds because it really wasn't. It was darker than what you see here. This little lightning makes it bright, and I also was underexposing it because I knew the lightning would be really bright. Sure. And so I'm probably 2 or 3 stops underexposed at dusk. Okay, so the sun's down. It's been down probably a half an hour, so it's at blue hour. And so these are, I'm not seeing anything pretty much in the viewfinder much, because I'm just exposed for darkness. But the lightning was pretty prevalent. So, then I'm watching it on one. I'm watching this exposure taking place, and then you press so after you start the live composite, then you press it again and start the actual thing happening, and it's just taking 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, and only adding bright pixels, right? The other camera's waiting, so when I see enough happening on the first camera, I'm going to stop it, and the second camera, I've already done its first shutter release. I have a remote cable on it, and I had it ready to go. And so as soon as I stop the one, I start the next one. Yeah. And that's the first one now. It has to go through it adds the noise, takes out noise and stores the image, however many it's taken. And I'm running these for 2 or 3 minutes at this time, maybe less. This was a very active storm. I think sometimes it was only 30, 40 seconds. And so what happened actually at the end of this is later I found I actually had 2 of this, and one from each sort of, not exactly the same, sure, but they overlapped enough that I got some of this on the other one too. But the story of the image is that people picked up on it as looking like there's this eye up here, and that there were like tears of lightning streaming down. I didn't even catch it. See, I don't see stuff like that until somebody points it out. I just see clouds and lightning, and I'm not a very much of an anthropomorphic type in nature person, but other people see that. So I said, oh yeah, kind of neat. So I called it Eye of the Storm and shared it on my Facebook, and Olympus picked it up, and it went kind of crazy. Sure. And I like, the thing I like about this, I shared that, is that the first names on there are Jamie McDonald and Nam Ing. Yeah. 2 of my favorite photographers. So, you can't go wrong if Jamie and Nam like your photo. Just take it from me. That's fine. If they think it's okay, you're fine.
No, it's definitely an insane shot. Makes me want to get out to your neck of the woods to hang out for a summer. I really need to.
Yeah, I hope we get some good ones again this year. Maybe it's been kind of moist in this winter, so I'm hopeful. Yeah. All right. Although, a lot of them have been going up your way, so I may end up, I may get to you first.
spend some time on the lake with me shooting lightning.
I'd be happy to. Okay, so this is a little more. I just stuck into fit into the shape of our screen here. The other thing that Olympus has allowed me to do, which I really could not have done with any other system as easily and as comfortably, is the action stuff. And that really came about with the EM1 Mark II, although I was doing some of this with the EM1. The EM1 Mark II had added enough of the capability with the AF system fast enough for really fast action to be able to keep adjusting focus as things moved and be shooting at 1,000th of a second. So on the left, the thing about this image that I wanted to share is that this is in the rain. So again, we don't have to worry about the OMD system in the rain. It's a night high school football game. If any of you do this, the lighting is terrible. Yep. I'm shooting with the 300 millimeter f4, which is, arguably one of the best, probably 300 millimeter lenses ever made. But it is a sharp lens for sure. But it is at f4,
right?
Which is an f2.8, which a lot of guys, But the 600 millimeters are f4. They weigh 3 times, 4 times as much. Are huge. Cost 4 times as much, maybe 5 times as much. And I can do this at ISO 10,000 and still get a perfectly clean image.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't know that you can do. They're so afraid. They've gotten used to the bad ISO issues that we had, earlier in mid 2000s. I mean, my first Canons wouldn't even go above 1600, and then 3200 was extended range. We thought that was great. I shoot a lot of times between 5,000 and 12,600 when I need to, and I'm generally shooting so that I'm about 1/3 to 2/3 of a stop over exposed. That's usually plenty of dynamic range to be able to. I'm not blowing highlights at that, especially in stuff like this. So I just wanted to mention that I get some great shots with great detail and texture, and the noise signature on the Olympus is very good. So as long as you're not having, as long as you hit your exposure accurately and don't have to, don't underexpose too much, I get really good results. On the right, the inside dance performances that I get to do some are, you have to be at 1,000th of a second. They're very fast, very quick. You don't use continuous shutter. You're using single shutter, and you'll still take about 2,000 images an hour, because with 2 cameras going, and there'll be 2 of us going full time, sitting right in front, because you're timing it with the music to get, because that's how their dance is choreographed.
Right.
By showing this is the beauty of this is Olympus came out with the f1.2 lenses, and so this is, I can shoot these indoor events with stage lighting at f1.2 and have all the depth of field I need at f1.2, which I probably wouldn't be able to do. I would be at a higher ISO and stop down. A full frame camera can handle that, that's for sure. But I've got this really comfortable setup, so that's what's. I'm not worn out at the end of 3 hours of this. I did a crop of the close up of this gal in the front of her face, and you can see this is both of these are right out of camera, guys. So I'm just showing you that I didn't do any color editing or sharpening or whatever. This is how it happens. So it's pretty good.
Wow.
Well, the other action I do is wildlife and kids, and especially my grandson. I had to put him in, but I do a lot of kids events and candids. And with kids, and with animals, you cannot predict where they're going to be, when they're going to be. I've been photographing eagles almost every day for the last 3 months. And the EM1 Mark II has made this enormously helpful. I'm assuming the EM1X is even better, but I'm not missing shots that would cost me money with the EM1 Mark II. The EM1X that's out now that everybody's talking about, I think is probably just a more comfortable and probably a little better. If I get 8 out of 10, the eagle coming down was probably, gosh, the whole way down, and I didn't do continuously, but I shot probably 120 shots of him coming down, spiraling, moving, looking, coming in, getting the fish, and then his taking it off over and landing in a tree. So all that is probably 120, 150 shots, and Sweet. 10 or 12 of them weren't in perfect tack sharp focus. So the M1X might fix that, but I'm not complaining. I'm not missing money shots with that camera. With little kids, this is with the 45-1.2 and just evening nice light at f1.2 1/100th of a second, and they just give you just what you need. So on the right's the 300 with 1.4. That's the farthest we can reach right now until sometime later this year from Olympus, and that I'm pretty sure that lens was made for what I've been doing. Because you just can't get close enough to these guys. I mean, they make you work for every single shot.
I think we need to tag along with Scott Bourne up in Alaska.
Well, yeah, he has special credentials. They come and sit on his shoulder.
Yeah, he shoots them with a 7-14. So I mean, you don't get much closer than that.
No, I know. He's a good one. So I think this is my last one. I think is that and this is just tying up with the first one. The first one I didn't know what I was doing. This I just shot the other day, and I've already had a couple of print orders. And when I remember when I was taking it, I thought, I don't even know why I'm taking this shot. This eagle is clear across the river. He's landing in front of a building, and I don't even know why I'm doing it, but it's just fun because the camera can track it. I was just tracking all the way through. I was flying over, and as he landed, and later I was looking. I said, "Gosh, right out of camera, this looks almost like a Japanese silk painting."
Yeah.
And it resonated with people really liked it, and I thought, these cameras can do things I don't even know. I'm not even that good to know what's going to come out of it that I might find really interesting.
I question that statement quite a bit. I was hoping you would have shared one of your images that you've been doing lately, and we can at least talk about this now, I suppose. You take advantage of a lot of the functions that are in these cameras that I think everybody just forgets about. There's so much technology in these cameras. It's hard to remember everything that they can do, and it never fails. I'll just be skimming through Facebook, looking to see what's going on, what's new. And I always seem to come across one of your photos where you've done you and Peter Baumgartner, like the multiple exposure gurus. Seriously don't know. You guys operate at a completely different level when it comes to seeing what is possible by blending two images together. It never ceases to amaze me what I see. It blows my mind. And lately it seems like you've just been coming out with just shot after shot with the moon and with eagles, and it's like, holy crap, it just makes me want to run out and just find things to shoot. And then I'll do that and I think, this is horrible. What on earth am I doing? So I mean, I've got like 1 or 2 multiple exposure shots I think I've ever done that I was happy with, and then you have like this gallery here that you've got up on the screen.
Yeah, these are all multiple exposures I've done just in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, pretty astounding. So can you talk a little bit about what's going on in your head to know that, you know, I'm going to use these two elements together? Or do you just have like, so I'm pointing at my screen here like anybody can see what I'm doing, but the shot with the eagle below the moon and the lower left-hand side here, yep. Do you have that moon shot just sitting on your card in your camera all the time?
No.
Okay.
So I kind of, like today, you know, it snowed last night. It was kind of a pretty snow, and you know, I'm sure a lot of my friends went out and did some photos today and with the nice clean blanket of snow. But I have a lot of snow pictures. What I was thinking of is, you know, we just had a full moon, so I'm thinking, you know, the moon's going to come tonight. It's going to be a little after sun is going to come up after it's coming up right 7:30. So it's up now. Moon's up. It's mostly full. We've got partly cloudy skies through the night. I've got all this snow. Wouldn't it be great to go out and do some night photography? So that's kind of how I think. So I'm going out, and so I'm here photographing eagles, and I know, well, the moon is up at this point because we're moving towards full. And so I can get a picture of that moon because it's up in the sky and the sun's getting ready to set. Mm-hmm. And so the moon will get a little, you know, brightness to it. And I'm still photographing these birds flying around. So I can I can take a picture of the moon. And so I got you have to be raw. And now I can, what I'll do, now it's on my card, right? So it's hard with birds flying in this case to always get them exactly composed, you know. I mean, you kind of have to, I mean, you're just tracking them and trying to get a shot, right? Sure. But the eagles are flying around. So what I did is I got shots of the eagle, and then I looked for shots of the eagle, and it's really easy to track the moon because it's moving, but you know, I can keep up with it. So, and we have this great image stabilization, right? So I'm shooting with a 300 millimeter in this case, you know, and with 1.4 a lot of times, and I'll shoot that of the eagles. And so I have these shots of the eagles that are, you know, pretty good, pretty close, but there's room. So I had this one, the eagles down low. I thought, you know, I can take that shot and position it as an overlay in multiple exposure right under the moon, and the moon will come through. I can't put the eagle over the moon because the moon's brighter than the eagle, and it'll just show right through. Mm-hmm. But I can do it this way, and so that's what I did. On this other one, though, you can sometimes get away with it, like this one. I knew that this is Earthshine. You have a thin crescent. The reflection off the Earth lights up the moon, the dark side of the moon, so you can see part of the moon. And it just happens for a little bit, you know, at twilight. You can see this. So you know, I'd taken this picture of if I underexpose the bird good, the lighter is going to come through a little bit, so that'll pull out a little bit of it, but you can get away with it sometimes for stuff like this. So that's kind of how I'm thinking.
Sweet. Yeah, it's very cool. It's inspiring to see that stuff. I mean, and it's funny, I think it all stems back to something you said a few minutes ago about when you were tracking that eagle as it was landing in front of those huge grain silos in the background there. You said initially, why am I doing this? And it's like, oh, because it's fun. And I think that's kind of at the root of it, you know, is like you still are having fun out there shooting, and it shows definitely in the work that you're not like you're not burdening yourself with the work of taking a photo as much as you are going out and just experimenting and having fun and making all these photos. It's really cool.
I hear that a lot. I hear it more from Olympus users than any other user, is that now part of that's I do follow Olympus groups quite a bit, but I'm on a lot of groups that are related to photography, wildlife photography groups, and on Facebook, and Great Plains photography and stuff. And the few that, and gradually that have switched to Olympus, it's like the first thing they say is, "I am having so much fun."
Yep.
And part of the reason I shared some of those other kinds of photos that aren't just the landscapes is that a lot of my friends that do shoot, events or special portraits or whatever, and they think, I need something for travel or something with the family, and I don't want to pull out the great big gear all the time, the great big Nikon 850 or whatever, and so they end up getting they might, one of us, pick up an Olympus, and they find themselves just using it all the time.
Yeah, I hear that so much.
Because it's good enough,
Yep.
And I think that apart from all the YouTube stuff, which I'm not much of a YouTube follower of review stuff. I just don't follow those. That's why I kind of like Mirrorless Minutes, because you guys really aren't about reviews. But we get on more of what things can't do than what they can do. And so I just feel like, these things can do things that I'm just having a blast with.
Yep. Agreed. It's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's not, it's what can you do with your equipment? It's not what can't I do. You shouldn't go out into the field with your gear and think, man, I can't do this with what I've got, because you're never going to get any photos made that way. I personally, I went through a struggle with that for a while, where I would go out and I would bring a ton of equipment with me. And then I got to a point where I was like, this is stupid to bring this much gear. I don't have to have this much gear with me. So I forced myself into the position of paring down and just taking what I should really need. But I spent the first couple of weeks out looking for things that I couldn't shoot because I didn't have the right gear with me. And it triggered something in my head that I thought, that's something that I think a lot of people do, is they just focus on what I can't get accomplished, and they don't focus on what they can do with what they have in their hands. So I think it's a good piece of advice.
When you mentioned, like Peter Baumgarten, I mean, there's almost nobody that astounds me more. And it's not that, the photos are fantastic, but it's not that. It's that what he did, what he was thinking to go do something that you think, well, of course. Yeah, I never thought of that.
Shot after shot, too. It's crazy.
I know.
All right. Well, we've been running for about 50 minutes here, so we'll probably wrap this up. What I want to do, though, is I want to make sure that everybody knows to, after the show's done, take a look down in the show notes there, the show description on YouTube, and I'll make sure to get Jeffrey's information up there. Take a look maybe tomorrow morning. I got a few things I need to wrap up here tonight, but I'll make sure sometime over the course of the next 8 or 9 hours or so, I'll get Jeffrey's information uploaded there. And if you're listening to the audio version of this as well, it'll be in the show description. And really, this show was very, very image driven. So I plead with you, if you weren't watching this, to visit the links so you can see the imagery that we're talking about. It's definitely worth your time. I'll tell you what, it's going to be way better than spending it thumbing through Instagram for 20 minutes, believe me. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Jeffrey, for coming on. I'm glad to finally get you on the show. We'll have to do this again.
I'm in your debt. Thank you very much.
Cool. You take care. And everybody, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. I think Mike will be back in the States then. So you guys take care.
Bye-bye.